Hello, beautiful human. I am Zach. That is Dan, and we are joined today by a rising country artist who's currently completing your first ever sold out tour, right?
That's correct.
It's a pretty big deal. Max McNown is in the studio.
Yo.
And you want me to yell?
No. You just speak at whatever volume you're comfortable
Are
speaking.
you sure? Because I noticed the other day that we had a guest in here, and they weren't hearing what I was saying because they too weren't wearing headphones.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of shows, and sometimes when I get nervous and I don't think I'm finding my pitch properly, I will take out one ear, and then I make the mistake of turning towards my drummer, and it's game over. And then I just hear ringing, and then it's just too late. So I think that I can hear you okay, all right? We're not to the point where you need to yell yet, but maybe when I come back, it might be worse. You might.
I understand.
It seems to be progressively deteriorating.
Yeah, because that's how it works. Because ultimately it's a vicious cycle, right?
Yes.
You can't hear, so then you turn it up louder
Yeah.
and louder and
Yeah.
louder. And then you also, there's going to be a point where, at least with me, I get addicted to hearing myself. I do.
What?
For a long time. If I had the ability to
Well,
walk
you have a
around-
great voice for hearing yourself.
Not true.
Did you ever listen to yourself on videos and hate it, or have you always just been like, this is cool. I could interview people.
I do think I hated the way I sounded for a very long time, and then I accepted it.
Dude, me too. That's exactly my journey.
Is it the same thing with singing?
Absolutely. In fact, singing, I was okay with my talking voice. But when I would sing, I remember I would try to sing like Justin Bieber and Shawn Mendes when I was in middle school. And I was probably 7th grade. And I would record myself. I got this little kit for Christmas. And I remember I put my headphones on. I had this little mic. And I put my hand up to my ear because I thought that did something because I saw other people doing that. And I sang. And then when I heard my voice back to me, I gave up on my dream for years because I hated it so much. I was like, I don't sound anything like them. Granted, I hadn't even gone through puberty fully yet. So my voice was obviously not ready to be.
But you don't know that.
No, exactly. And I was super discouraged, but that was always a thing, man. I always hated my voice.
So is that happening in West Lynn, Oregon?
That is.
And now, when do you reestablish a relationship with your voice?
Honestly, not until I didn't fully reestablish it until 21.
So that's decently recent.
Yeah.
You're only 23.
I'm 23, yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was largely due. I owe a lot of it to Zach Bryan, just because his tone of voice is similar to mine. And in my early stages of this career, I was covering a ton of his songs.
Somebody recommended that, right?
Yes, yeah. But I was street performing, and a woman named Jamie came up to me, and I was singing Tyler Childers and some other super simple 3-chord songs. And she was like, when you sing Tyler Childers, you sound a lot like Zach Bryan. Would you ever want to sing Zach Bryan? And I was like, oh, I don't know. He's pretty, he had blown up massive at that point, and I'm kind of a weird quirk of my personality is that I like to try to have my own little things. I like to have my own smaller artists that I really love, and I don't love jumping on a bandwagon that I feel like I don't deserve to be on, if that makes sense.
Totally. But it's also weird to hear that you sound exactly like an artist, because when you're covering something, you still want to make it your own.
Absolutely. And that was I feel like we're covering so much right off the bat. That was another, a whole different journey, was making music and resisting the pull to try to imitate, because I knew that I sounded like similar to Zach Bryan in tone. And on the one hand, in the positive light, that gave me the courage to sing more and sing and pursue the career, because I was like, if he can do it and he sounds similar to me, then I should be, maybe I'll be able to do it, so I got to try. But then the music that I make can't be, I don't want to be a dupe. I don't want to be, I got, when I was covering his songs early on, people were like, Zach Bryan dupe, and they're all commenting it, and I was like, yeah, I'm singing his songs, okay. And then, but I made the conscious decision that when I make my own music, I don't want to imitate, just because my tone of voice is similar. I don't want to make music that is copying somebody else's style, if that makes sense.
100%. By the way, I don't think your music copies his style or sounds like him at all. But also on top of that, I feel like an idiot. I introduced you as a country star. Is that even appropriate? Because I don't hear that necessarily in your records.
Yeah, it's I am kind of whatever, people want to paint me as. I grew up in Oregon suburbs. Westland is like south of Portland, and then I also lived in Bend for a while, which is Central Oregon.
But then you make your way to Southern California.
I did. So obviously none of that is really screaming country, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, the country background comes from the music that I found myself loving. I guess A and B. My dad grew up in a town in California called Hollister, and there was a lot of it was a large ranching community, and so he raised me on a lot of George Strait and Kenny Chesney and like kind of I grew up. Zach Brown Band is one of my favorites. I grew up listening to a ton of country. So when you write music, you write from the inspirations that you listen to throughout your life. So I can't really, I wouldn't claim to be specifically country, but I also wouldn't claim to not be country because I think it's pretty dependent on the song and the phase of life and what influenced you.
Totally. And also what does it even mean to be country anymore?
I got no idea.
Is it to tell a great story in a song or a vivid one? Because you do that.
But folk is storytelling too.
You're very Americana. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody says folk anymore. They say Americana.
Oh, is that the new thing? Oh.
I don't know. That's what I heard.
How new is that? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. To me, like if I was defining country in my eyes has been kind of like this set of values that the songs are kind of written about typically. A lot of like family centric and, relationship with God and like that's very country to me. I don't know if like having pedal steel in a song necessarily makes it country, but I also don't, I've benefited tremendously from the blurred line of genre now. Like, I don't want to make any enemies by being like, well, this is country and this isn't country. No. I think music is so dependent on what influenced you to write each individual song and each piece, each album. I think that it's all relative. It doesn't necessarily. You can't black and white a spectrum like that.
It's art. You are what the song needs to be.
Yes.
And you can't dictate what the song needs to be. The song dictates what the song needs to be.
Yeah. And my catalog is hilarious because I have very Lumineers-y, folky, a lot more free.
I love that.
And then I have
shit,
Call Me If You Miss Me, and that's straight heavily Noah Kahan influenced, very more on the poppy, folky side of things. And then I got Wandering, and it's more on the country side of things. And so, I don't know what I am. I just let people kind of decide that for me, I guess.
You are churning out a lot of music.
Yeah.
You just released an album.
Yeah.
And you're releasing another era at the same time, immediately following?
I would say it's the same era. I think that this Night Diving, the album, is not complete. And I haven't officially announced everything that's coming, so I don't even know what I'm supposed to talk about. But there's a lot more coming, and it's more of I would consider it a completion of Night Diving. Night Diving is more of a part one, a phase one of sorts.
Because I listened to the first album. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
It's really great. And then I love A Lot More Free, but I also love music like that. I'm very into what Hot AC was.
Yeah.
Train and Rob Thomas and Jack Johnson.
Yeah, I grew up on that.
Yeah, give me basic storytelling. The idea that a song is great can be tested and proven by playing it just on a piano or guitar.
Yeah. When I write music, I typically compare songs. I compare songs acoustically first to kind of decide where I want to go and build on it. But a good storytelling song, to your point, should invoke emotion without necessity of production. It doesn't need, it's not oh, this song is so close to being good, but it really needs a cool moment right here, an electric solo right here. Then it would be better. It's yeah, you can improve a song, but the especially the type of music I like to write, is very lyric focused. And so you should be able to read the song and feel what I'm trying to convey. And if you can't, then that's not, my goal is that I don't release music like that.
So where do you begin?
In my notes page on
So
my phone.
it's writing a lyric.
Yeah, writing a lyric, writing poetry, it could be anything. Sometimes it's like just things that I like to say I'm always writing, because it's hard for me to sit down and be like, I'm going to write a song right now and then just do it. You know, like I have to kind of be inspired. I have to capitalize on the inspiration that I find just throughout my life. And I write poetry or, concepts, or it could be a word, it could be an entire verse and a chorus, it could be an entire song that are in my notes pages. And if I feel like they need kind of that, if they deserve the completion and I feel like I'm really excited about it, then I usually take it into writer's room in Nashville with some of my favorite people, like, Jamie Kinney, my producer, or Trent Dabbs, or, yeah.
But everything is still starting as a poem, really.
Absolutely.
It's very cool.
Except for there are certain songs, like there's a song on Night Diving called Aelia Place.
Oh yeah,
and
I actually talk about it.
Great
song.
Thank you. I was at the end of a writing trip, and I was like pretty fresh out of ideas. Like we had used so much. I have so many notes, and like we were writing, and we can get to why, but we were writing so much. We wrote like 30 songs in 40 something days, and
That's crazy.
I was so burnt out, and I was like, I don't have anything to write about. And I get in the Uber to go from East 8th to Aelia Place, Nashville to Berry Hill, the southern neighborhood, and I talked to my Uber driver. I had an amazing faith conversation, and my girlfriend's mom was struggling with cancer at the time, and I just like opened up to this. I had this amazing conversation, and at the very end of the drive, he was like, we talked all about gratitude and grace and like what the song is about, and he was like, would you write the names down of your girlfriend and her mother, and I would love to just have you write them down and circle them so I know who to pray for tonight. And I was like, yes, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And so,
that's really special.
So I went into the writer's room, and that's one of those situations where it didn't come from my notes page. It, came from somewhere else. I came in, I was like, I had no ideas for what I was going to write about today, but the craziest thing just happened, and I think we should write a song about it. And that's how Aelia Place was born. So there's exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, they start in my notes page.
That's a pretty good exception.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you first get an understanding or real introduction to gratitude and grace? Is it through your brother?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the biggest reminders, is just gratitude for me it's so important. I think gratitude and anxiety are kind of contradictory. Like they don't live well together. And so if you focus on being very intentionally grateful and like, prayers of gratefulness and just like keeping your mind on the things that you are fortunate to have, and like keeping your eyes on the positives can kind of push back against some of the thoughts of self-doubt and anxiety that come to everybody. So Brock's situation, like just everything he's been through, like he made a post a while back when we were first just like minivanning it across the country to start playing some like opening acoustic sets. And Brock posted an Instagram post, and he said, "Thank you to my brother Max for helping me live again." And like that type of thing puts everything into perspective. It's like Brock is grateful to be alive right now, because there were times where we didn't know how much longer he was going to live, if he was going to make it to the next Christmas, right? And so like, and I'm sitting here, I have the audacity to worry about like my voice maybe cracking or something on stage. Like, who am I? Like that type of perspective gives you a gratitude that can just kind of get you through anything. It's like, I played my first festival, and it's like there's a bunch of people out there, but I focused on the fact that I'm on a stage right now in front of them. Like, it's everything. Brock's journey is one of the biggest inspirations every single day for me, and Gratitude and Grace, you know, is heavily inspired by that as well, you know.
Illness in any form
Mm-hmm.
is so hard on both the family and then the individual and then the friends. It's like,
Absolutely.
it is so hard. It is a constant worry. It's a constant stress. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I don't talk about this part of it too much, but it was one of the drivers. It was one of the push factors that kind of got me to move out at 21 out of Oregon to Southern California. It wasn't to pursue music. I had no intention to pursue music. When a family is dealing with a sickness like that, obviously it's hardest on the person dealing with the sickness, but a lot of something that sometimes can go under the radar is how it affects the general, you know, feeling around the house. And I felt like I was 21 and I was working and I was, you know, feeling like I could, it felt like it was time to go out and try to find my independence. And it was just kind of a difficult time back at the house. And so that was a huge reason. I was like, let me go try to change the scenery. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll transfer to another coffee shop or Starbucks or whatever you got. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I was working at Starbucks and I transferred to a California Starbucks and just kind of just did something. I switched it up, and that was heavily due to just being, just having a hard time back in Oregon.
It is. I mean, by the way, we were talking about your brother's diagnosis with lymphoma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because, like, in that moment, you want to be there for your family, but also, like, being there for your family means a couple things.
Yeah.
It means being able to pursue what you ultimately want to pursue
Yes.
in order to provide for them. Do you get what I'm saying?
Zach, this is
Bigger.
a full circle thing. It is, and I couldn't have foreseen us working together, Brock and I, like this. I had no clue that I was going to pursue music. I had no idea what my life was going to look like. I battled a lot of guilt for not being at the house, for not being by his side in the thick of it, right? In the trenches is what we called it. And like now, only with hindsight and the perspective I have now, can I kind of see God's plan in it all. It was, I talked about that Instagram post. Like, Brock and I had a conversation where he was just saying, it's amazing that I don't trigger his PTSD, which is so, like, that, because I was not in it at that time, I do not trigger the PTSD of his chemo, of his stem cell, of his journey through cancer, because I was removed at that time. And now I have been able to provide a re-entry into as normal, you know, I guess normal's a questionable word to use, but a re-entry into life for Brock. And
it is a new normal.
Yes, yeah. And that's available because I wasn't part of it in a weird way, in a weird twist of things. Does that make sense?
100, yeah.
I'm trying
totally.
to kind of, it's a big concept, and I struggled with the guilt of that for a long time. I was thinking, like, man, that, like, my first song, Freezing in November, that how can a world be crushed while another goes on, is the first line. And that was just me thinking, like, Brock always, that was something that he would say, because he would get, like, the most devastating news that, like, that, you know, 65% cure rate didn't work, you know, that and everybody else, just the world kept spinning, right? And I was part of that world, and I was just going to work, and I was hanging out with my friends, and I was going about my day in California. And so that was always, like, kind of a soft spot for me, because I was like, man, I am part of that world that keeps going on. And it has only been recently that I've kind of started to understand that it was all meant for something, you know, like, it wasn't, like, what I thought was a failure on my part is now being used as
That's the greatest
a
gift.
very special gift. Yeah. It's surreal, man. Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
dude.
it's crazy to think about. Yeah.
What'd you learn about performing from busking?
What did I learn?
Yeah. It's like the most amazing craft.
It's interesting. The person that got me to do it, and the phrase that has stuck in my head ever since, his name was Jordan, and I worked with him. And he came over, and he was hanging out in California, and I got out my guitar, and I couldn't play more than 3 or 4 chords at the time, and I wrote a song just kind of like plucking certain strings and being like, okay, that sounds interesting. Here's this is, you know. And I played him that song, and he was like, dude, you sound like you could do something with this. Like, are you going to pursue this? And I was like, no, it's kind of a pipe dream. Like, I'll probably try to go into management and find a good, you know, paying job and take care of a family. That's my goal. And Jordan was like, well, if not for you, just for me, would you go down to the San Clemente Pier and would you just play, just sing, just play? You don't sound bad. You sound really good. And at the very worst case, nobody really cares. And at the best case, nobody really cares. And that has stuck with me ever since. And I honestly, like, that's such good advice, because especially in street performing, but even I take it to shows. It's like you are there trying to just work on your craft, practice, but also B, just because you enjoy it and you love music and you love singing. And so that mindset carried through, and I learned a ton about just focusing on what I can control street performing. You know, it was like, I can't control how many people tip. I can't control if anybody stops and says anything. I can't control if it's a, rainy day and I have to pack up and go. Like, there's just, what I can control is getting out there, sitting down, strumming my guitar and singing songs. And ever since then, that's still what I'm doing. You mean
so $93?
I did. You got some info, yeah. I did. The first time I street performed, I made, like 90 something bucks, and I played for hour and a half, I think, if I remember correctly.
Could be worse.
And I got a taco, which is amazing.
And a girl's number.
And a a $5 bill.
Did you call that girl?
I don't think so.
Wow.
No. Yeah, but those are the 3 necessities in life. So I knew there was something with this music thing. I mean, and it actually ended up leading me to my girlfriend now. I was singing Lady May on the pier, and she reached out and she was like,
really?
Yeah, she's from Kentucky, but she was like, I love your voice. And we just kind of talked as friends for like a year. And then when I started going to Nashville to write, we ended up meeting each other. Played some mini golf and ate some sushi.
Kentucky's only a 3-hour drive away.
Exactly. Yep. And so, the rest is history with that. But, the first day I was kind of shown, like, there's something happening here and there's a potential here that I should definitely pursue. And it took a lot of people and moments of encouragement and kind of chance to put me into that place. Like, I was not planning on having a guitar, playing music. I had my Subaru Outback packed to the brim, and I was walking out the door to get in the car and start my drive down to Southern California. And my dad, legitimately, it's like something out of a movie. He like opened up the door again. He's like, hang on. Like, he gave me his like backup guitar that he's had forever, and he was like, people love somebody who can play guitar. And I was like, okay, I'll learn some chords. And if that wouldn't have happened, none of this would have come to be. It's like,
but you were singing at your 8th grade talent show.
That's the only time I ever sang in front of anything that resembles a crowd, and I was like dry heaving in the bathroom after that and before it. I was so nervous. But I've always had that kind of thought in my mind, like, man, it would be cool to be a singer, but I never thought I'd pursue it. And I also just never, I tried to learn guitar several times in my life, and I gave up over and over again. And it wasn't until Tyler Childers specifically that I was like, man, he's writing the most beautiful poetry over some very simple chords. And like, if I could just learn those 3 to 4 chords, then I could sing a lot of Tyler Childers songs. And so that's where it started. And then it was like, oh, these are actually chords that are used in like a ton of other songs that I can play.
What were you doing on Omegle?
Oh, gosh. Getting reactions.
By the way, Omegle's like chat roulette.
Oh, it's...
You know it, don't you, Carlos? That's right, you do.
It's a terrible, terrible place. Don't...
Chat roulette or Omegle?
Omegle. I mean, Omegle's dead now.
Omegle.
Omegle, I don't know.
What's the one now? There is one.
There is one. There's one. There's a couple.
Yeah, you know
it. I'm an expert in this field. No, there's it's ome.tv. And if I thought pronouncing Omegle was difficult, I have no idea what ome.tv is. But
so what, you just sing and people go, oh.
It starts with introducing yourself, because you want to make sure they know you're not a predator, because there's a lot of insane humans on Omegle, on those chat roulette stuff, like that. There's some of the nasty, like...
I went on chat roulette when it first came out, and when I was a child, like, because it's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Some of those scarring shit.
It hasn't changed.
Things I saw for the first time.
Yeah. Like I would encourage...
Not okay.
I would encourage... Like, I don't know how it would work or how the, like, you know, legal side of things work or the privacy side of things, but I would encourage, like, some law enforcement to just take a little gander, take a trip.
Yeah.
And just skip through and see...
It's gnarly shit.
See how many horrible humans are doing stuff on that app. It's bad.
It's bad. A lot of people in scream masks.
Yeah. Oh, I mean...
That's what I remember from
That's tame, man. That's tame.
Fucked up,
It's tame.
Yeah.
Omegle was a means to an end for sure, and I had some really great reactions that I met some.
So you go, hi.
Yeah, hey, I'm
Max.
I'm Max, and I sing for people sometimes. Would you want to hear anything, or are you okay?
It's nice that you ask for consent.
Yeah, just to sing.
There's
great. There's a lot more that happens on there for a lot less consent. It's horrible. But so I would skip. Like we would have on Omegle specifically, and Omegle was kind of like the kingpin of the chat roulette world, like FaceTime, whatever you want to call that kind of type of media. But Omegle had hashtags you could put in to like specify what you were trying to find or what you're doing or whatever. And so I found that typing hashtag country kind of sussed out a lot of the nasty stuff. Basically everything you could possibly think of, good and bad, is on Omegle. It's a nasty place. I'm glad it's dead. I'm really glad it's dead. And you can put me on record for saying that. It's horrible. So if you're listening to this right now, do not go on any of those things. I do not encourage it. I went on because I noticed that people loved the videos I was posting when I would, make some person cry or, make somebody giggle while listening to my song or me covering Zach Bryan. Like, I noticed that algorithms on social media were like eating it up. And so I was like, hey, sometimes it would take me 2.5 hours and I would just be burning my voice out, singing, belting Zach Bryan.
To find a good one.
Yeah. And then all the editing is probably another hour and a half. And I was just doing all my own stuff. And so a lot of work went into it. I had people that would message me early in my career and be like, how they would ask me all these questions about Omegle. And I was like, oh, you poor sucker, I got you into it. Like, you're going to be grinding on that for so long. Nobody knows, how many things I've seen, Zach.
No, because I don't even want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to be in your brain. No, because it's interesting because it was a trend for a while.
It was. And I was...
But I feel like you could have been one of the Godfathers.
What? Oh, man. Well, that's putting a lot of... it would be an honor if I was considered a godfather of reaction videos on TikTok. But don't relate me to it. No,
brother,
no,
we're
I
talking
don't
about
want
specific Omegle ones, man.
No, there's a lot.
General.
No, man. Oh, man. Yeah. No, I would not like the title of Omegle Godfather. That would be terrible.
Did we perform a lot more free on Omegle?
2 or 3 times. But a lot more free was the first song of mine that kind of started to take off on its own without the need for Omegle. Like Freezing in November, my first song, I posted I think 6 Omegle videos just dispersed in between Zach Bryan and Tyler Childers covers and, whatever, Ed Sheeran, Vance Joy. Like, I was posting covers. And then when I put out my song, I was like, what's stopping me from doing this exact format but singing my own song? And so I kind of just did kind of an Indiana Jones little switch and put Freezing in November in there instead. And that's what started everything. Freezing in November in 3 months hit 1 million streams across platform. And it was like, okay, all right, we're doing this. But A Lot More Free, I remember how A Lot More Free got started was I knew that harmonica moment, that kind of like whistle, harmonica, freedom, pain, symbolism, and just the feeling of A Lot More Free was, I knew it was special. And when I got the first mix back, I got choked up. I had to like pause it and like go, because there's a lot of times in the industry where you get a mix back or you get a song back and you're like, it started out like when it was written, I had this kind of like image or this dream for what the song was going to sound like, and it just somewhere we took a wrong turn. But A Lot More Free came back, and I was like, this is the song that I was praying for. Like this is it.
And it ends up becoming a life-changing song.
Yes, absolutely. And so I was just like, well, my youngest sister is one of my best friends, and through COVID, like we would like find hikes and viewpoints and stuff, and I was like, would you want to go to the Columbia River Gorge in Oregon and like help me make a video to promote A Lot More Free? And she's like, yeah, of course. She's always up for stuff like that. And so we drove. It was about an hour and a half. We took our dog, our family dog Zion. He's a German Shepherd, and we drove out and we went to this Rowena Crest viewpoint at the Columbia River Gorge, and we filmed like just some scenic stuff and like me like doing like a transition thing where like I'm a little bit hurt but A Lot More Free, boom, and then the harmonica and the giant the Columbia River, and we made this video, and my caption was, what if this became a travel song? And I literally, that was such an afterthought, me writing that. It was literally like, oh, what should the caption be? There you go, done, post, And people took that to heart apparently, and people started posting their own content with A Lot More Free as the sound. And they were just like, it was like really beautiful scenes. It was like people riding horses or some like really amazing hikes, or like those videos where someone will like wake up in a tent and then they'll pull the camera up and it's like the sunset opens up. It's like all those like super cool videos. And I was like, whoa, something's happening here. I'm going to try to capitalize on this. And so I started to post like basically selfie videos where I'd be like, 26 videos have been made. Thank you guys so much. And then on the beat drop of, or when the harmonica comes in, I would use their content and I would like give them like a moment, which is like a cool interactive thing with fans. And so I started doing that, and then it was like 26 videos, and then it was like 200 videos. And then I was like 437 of you have made a video. And by the time a month after A Lot More Free had released, 33,000 videos were made. And that just happened. And I didn't need Omegle, and it was just like it was a huge moment. And ever since then, I mean, it's gone kind of like semi-viral or viral several times now. But that was what kicked it all off. And that was when I was antsy to stop Omegle. I was like, I hate that I have to go on here for hours and hours and just see a bunch. People are so mean. Like people like, all the inappropriate stuff aside, people are jerks on there. It's really hard, especially as a singer when you're trying to like play for people. It's
very anonymous.
Yeah. Oh, and there's no repercussions. There's no nothing. Like they'll call you something crazy in the middle of you talking and then skip you. So it's like I was antsy to be done with that. And so when A Lot More Free did that, I was like, this is my window to escape this. And so I kind of left. The last Omegle I did was, I think maybe almost a year ago. No, maybe like last summer. So when I was promoting Marley, and I knew I had to graduate at some point. I couldn't be the Omegle Godfather, I couldn't have Zachsang calling me the Omegle Godfather. That was so unacceptable.
So not okay. But so can you talk to me about like why you think this song hits? Is it the fact that it's a great song, or is it the fact that you had great social strategy? Combination of the two, I would assume.
Yeah, definitely a combination. I mean, it was so interesting because I always felt like it was a special song from day one. I mean, it was the first song that I was like the belt in that song is like terrible vocal technique. It was super early in my career, and I was just like, man, I'm just gonna give this everything I had. I lost my voice recording A Lot More Free, but I think there was something about just the magic of the moment. It was the authenticity of just like, I think people can feel the pain and the heartbreak and also the freedom in the song as you're listening.
It's true.
And I think that's for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that I was legitimately injuring my vocal cords.
Were you going
so
through
there is pain.
Were you going through a breakup?
No, it was written about, it wasn't currently a breakup, but it was written about an experience like months and months before of just I don't go too in depth on it just because everybody involved is healed, but it was not just a heartbreak, but kind of like a relational betrayal, and it was a very difficult thing that I hadn't fully coped with yet. And music, because I've always gone to music to kind of be an outlet for my emotions. I mean, all throughout high school, it was like, music was huge for me. And so writing A Lot More Free was my claim of freedom as well from the experience. So it's kind of a cool full circle moment.
Do you hear anything new in the song when Kelly Clarkson performs it?
Other than being absolutely starstruck, no. I mean, she has an incredible voice. I didn't like necessarily hear like a different, I didn't see it in a different way. It was more just like, Kelly Clarkson just covered my song. Like, it's crazy. And my manager was super sweet because he like didn't tell me about it on purpose so that I would be surprised and like not know it's coming. And because of my experience on American Idol, it was, to use the term again, a very full circle moment, because I had to make a difficult decision to turn down American Idol after going there and getting the golden ticket and being like, I could be, this is like this big shiny thing, like you could be a star, right? And I was like, well, I've built something for myself already, and I don't really want to kind of have that negated with the idea that I was just kind of like a overnight success through American Idol, right? And so I backed out of it, and that was really difficult for me. And to see Kelly Clarkson, not only me singing like a song of hers that like blows up on social media, it was her covering my song. That was surreal. That was one of there's not a ton. I'm so go. I mean, like you were saying, like I release a lot of music. I moved to Nashville like 9 months ago, and I've probably spent less than 2 months total in my home. Like it's go, and I don't stop to smell the roses enough. Kelly Clarkson blew me away, and I was like, whoa, this is real,
How many songs do you think you wrote before you wrote A Lot More Free?
That's an interesting question. I think full songs, maybe 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah, no. No, that's
no,
it.
people write songs like they write like 100, 200 songs.
I know.
They write that
and I've been waiting to talk about this because your interview with Noah Kahan a
you're
while
a real
back.
one, eh?
You guys talked about
Thanks.
so much. I've listened to it probably two to three times all the way through, because it was the only one I looked up, like Noah Kahan podcast on Spotify, and it was under that. And
Because Noah Kahan's been coming on our show long before it was ever Stick season.
yeah.
Because we believe.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'll take that as a good sign for me.
Oh, your records, you're an obvious
Thank
one.
you. But Noah Kahan on your podcast talked about writing being a muscle and writing a lot. And I mean, his stuff is like, he's one of my greatest inspirations. His stuff is like, I mean, lyrically, in my opinion, pretty unmatched in the entire industry. But that is the kind of something that I've not struggled with, but like I heard him saying that and I was like, man, maybe I'm not writing enough. But then, like we talked about earlier, full songs I had only written 4 or 5, but man,
How many
you
poems?
should see my notes pages. Yeah. So I guess, that is something to think about as well. But when I heard you guys talking about that, I was like, I got self-conscious. I was like, shoot, I'm not exercising my writing muscle enough.
No, but you have been.
Yeah, in a different way.
Totally.
Like, yeah.
And if you read these lyrics, when you love somebody and the love grows cold, the sun starts shining, when you Let It All Go. This is a poem. There's a certain kind of hurting only time can
And it's
heal.
very simple.
Totally.
It's very simple.
Yes.
It's like...
But great songs are.
Yeah. It's that one was just, A Lot More Free was it's when you hear it initially, and maybe I don't want to speak for you or whoever, but you don't think of it as like this song is the one that put Max on the map. Like I wouldn't. There are songs that like lyrically I feel are not necessarily better, but more intricate, more unique, like things that maybe are more directly personal to me, like in Night Diving. Like that song is like heavily personal, and A Lot More Free is more general. And so it's just interesting to kind of see what hits and what doesn't. And I think it all comes down to a combination of the moment, of the song, of the social media strategy.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's everything. And also the team. That's something I did not know getting into this industry. There is not just a village, but as you get bigger, like it feels like cities start working for you. Like there's so many humans that are behind the scenes that nobody knows about. Like you look at people and you're like, oh, Max McNown is doing great right now. It's like, well, yes, I'm having a great time, but Max McNown is not running the ship completely. Like there is so many people, and that's kind of a tangent, but that's one of the big factors as well that people don't really think about.
And there's two things. Like I don't think there's like a general consensus on like what is like a timeless record. Is it something that is like super specific or something that's really general?
Mm-hmm.
Because like some of the most like people feel such like solace and understanding when something is hyper specific, but still like done in like a mainstream for everybody package.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no I don't think there's a real consensus on like what works and what doesn't.
No, there's no black and white. It's like
it's art.
It
like,
is
there's never going
art
to be.
is such a spectrum, and it would be easier for a lot of people, I think, if it was black and white. Like if there was like a standard factory style, which I mean we can actually talk about. There's some stuff that seems pretty factory produced, but if there was like a standard of like this is what you have to do and it will succeed and you will do well, then art would be worthless.
100%.
Like it has to be unique to you, and that was something I learned early on. Like we were talking about our voices earlier, right? When I started singing Zach Bryan and then I started making my own music, it wasn't until I did that I started to realize, oh, this is a strength, not a weakness. The fact that I don't sound that I not necessarily don't sound like anybody, but the fact that I have a distinct voice is a blessing. Like that is going to help differentiate. Because man, I still am not a great guitar player. I can't play pretty much any other instruments. I write music and I sing, and I'm not even the best vocalist. I sing with a lot of emotion, but what separates me is just the fact that I'm me.
But that, so was that enough to get you into the country like writing rotation? Because that's a hard thing to just crack.
I had help initially. So Freezing in November was just like my own, like I produced it with a coworker from Starbucks and
Sick.
yeah in California, and promoted it obviously like fully independent and just through Omegle primarily. And then my uncle, who is Brandon Ebel, he started a label called Tooth and Nail Records. Cool. And so he basically started out like just being like, hey, we're family. Like, I don't want it to be weird, but if you need any advice in the music industry, like I can see that you're starting to grow. So like, please send me any contracts people are sending you. Send me what, and so, so I was sending him like what people were DMing me on Instagram, right? Like people that were like A&Rs that were like, oh, we could get you to meet NF and like you could, like do, like we could make you famous. Like, would you rather be Morgan Wallen or, Sturgill Simpson? And like that type, just the type of just slimy stuff, man. Like I'm like, oh, I want to be big. Yeah, I want to grow. And I would send Brandon the contracts, and by the third or fourth contract, he's like, dude, please tell me you have not signed any of these. And I'm like, no, I haven't. And he's like, okay, let me just have you write with, he has one writer that's that he publishes, and it's Jesse Reeves. And Jesse Reeves, he was like, let me bring you to Nashville and just try to write one song. At that point, I had written You in the Pines, Freezing in November, and Bury Me in My Hometown just in my upstairs room, you know, like just kind of by myself. And he was like, try a co-write and see what happens. So he was the gateway. And we ended up agreeing to do like a super kind and friendly, like non-exclusive, let me help you produce 6 songs and see what we can do, you know? And the song that we released last of that initial thing was A Lot More Free. And A Lot More Free hit, and we're like, let's keep doing this, you know? And so that's the whole story with just kind of cracking into it, because it is a hard thing to do. And when I was initially going to move from California, I was deciding Bend or Nashville. And to kind of speak on the difficulty of entering into Nashville, when I chose Bend, Oregon, and I wanted to hone in, we talk about being me is the thing that separates me. I'm not going to like be the best of the best ever. There's always somebody better. There's always a bigger fish, right? And so I knew, like, let me hone what makes me unique. I'm going to stay in Oregon. I'm going to stay in the Northwest, kind of keep my roots. And then once I develop myself and develop my brand, I'll try my hand in Nashville. When I went to Nashville for the first time and I went to Broadway, I am convinced, Zach, that I would have quit music if I would have made the decision to move to Nashville first. There's so much talent.
Intimidating.
There is so many writers. Everybody on every street corner is better than you probably will ever be. Like, it's crazy.
And by the way, they haven't even made it yet.
No. And
So they're all
struggling
mission.
artists.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all struggling artists, and there's so many of them are phenomenal. And so to your point, like, man, I was so fortunate to like be on my own over here and then have Freezing in November do what it did, and then have my uncle be like, hey, go write with somebody. I'll put you with somebody and we'll try to see what happens.
But ultimately, data was the only way you can really kind of set yourself apart, because in a world where we're at today, there's no gatekeepers. Everything's really democratized.
No, especially with TikTok.
Yeah,
TikTok's
you let
crazy.
the people decide a lot through strategy, but like, you know, a great, like, strategy is nothing without a great song, right? So you can't prop up something that's shit.
Yes.
So like, that's the only thing that's going to set you apart from that person who is incredibly talented, who's written 1,000 songs, who's performing at some like bar on Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, life in almost all businesses and so many aspects of life, it's about connections. It's about people that can that you meet, and just being as good a person as you can, and trying to form a we call it now the inner circle, but trying to form a foundation that is trustworthy, people that love you, that care for you, that want what's best for you, that can push you and you can kind of climb with. And so that's what we set out to do. As soon as A Lot More Free started to hit, we're like, okay, it's time to start building the team. And that's kind of what I talked about with like being, ending up being a village and then a city, like that, it keeps growing. But that nucleus is so important. I know, to touch back on your interview with Noah, like the imposter syndrome can really hit you. It's like you start to feel like, man, this isn't me. What is happening? Like I don't. It's hard to accept and comprehend. Especially through streaming numbers and social media, how many eyes are seeing you, how many people are maybe looking up to you or judging you or whatever. You think too deeply about it. But I guess my Brock always says, like, doors are opened by relationships often, but you are the only person that has to walk through them.
Fuck yeah, and keep them open, dude.
Yeah.
Like, someone can introduce you to something, but the onus isn't on them to keep it going.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Absolutely.
An opportunity is nothing without follow-up and follow-through.
Yeah.
By the way, you can listen to all of Max's music. It's waiting for you. It's on Amazon Music. There's a link below. Night Diving is the album. It's waiting for you below.
It's waiting for you. What are you doing?
It's also a song on the album. It is about addiction, correct?
Correct.
Is it your addiction?
Yes, just throughout my life, I've had my own personal battles, and something that I try to do, especially with songs as heavy as that, and a lot more free too, which is why I said the same thing about it. It's my dad always says, like, when you release a song, especially a song that's very personal, you're kind of you are giving it to the people that need it and the people that listen, and how they interpret it is real to them, right? So I sometimes don't go too far into specifics with stuff like that, but yes, in a broad sense, just addiction in my personal life, and that battle is the premise of Night Diving.
What are you thinking over there, Daniel?
He's got to go, unfortunately. I have a ton of questions, but we'll save them for next time.
Oh,
Come back for the
It's
next
time?
part of the album.
Yeah.
shoot. I didn't even get to half the stuff I wanted to say.
I know.
You got to come back.
There. I didn't get to any of the stuff I wanted to say.
Dan is a big fan as well.
Oh,
Come
awesome.
on. You have
Thank
something
you.
that's burning inside.
He's got to go. I can just tell you that Roses and Wolves is my favorite song on the album.
All right.
There's
That
a
is
compliment.
a direct poem from that
Really?
chorus. Roses will still bloom in the springtime. Wolves will sing their songs up to the moon. Because people fall and people love and people pass on through, but tomorrow won't see me and you.
God, I'm going to cry. Fuck off.
It's an interesting. I wrote that on the way to Yellowstone, West Yellowstone from Oregon. When I was on a big road trip, and it just inspiration hit, and I wrote it in my notes, and then that's how it started.
Why did it need Hailey on it?
Why'd it need?
Yeah, why did it need a feature?
I think that Hailey's voice, I heard her sing on Evan Honer's Fighting For, and the way that she sang was different than a lot of her own stuff. It was like a very rich, and it was a tone that I hadn't heard from her before, and I have so much respect for her as an artist, and I just there's not a crazy story with it. It was like, she sounds beautiful on that. I would love that voice to be on Roses and Wolves. Team, can we make that happen? And it turns out that a couple of my band members and a couple members of my team are friends with her and her husband and her management team, and so it's like, oh, perfect, this was meant to be. And then we did it and filmed some content together, and she's just as sweet as you'd expect.
And your voices sound incredible together.
Yeah, it was. I was so happy with how it turned out. Yeah.
God, those lyrics are crazy. What is it about?
Roses and Wolves?
Yeah.
It's about, it's a perspective on heartbreak. Honestly, that first line of Freezing in November, it's like if that was expanded into an entire song, but in a positive light, stick with me. How can a world be crushed while another goes on? Roses and Wolves is about just so many things happen to us in our own lives, and breakups are obviously universal. And there's almost a comfort that you can find in the fact that it's not the end of the world. The world's not going to stop spinning. You can be sad, but without sadness there would be no happiness. So it's in a way it's a sad song, and it's a heartbreak song, but it's also an acknowledgement that the world is going to keep spinning. Roses will still bloom. Wolves will sing their songs up to the moon. It's a part of life. People fall, people love, and people come into your life and they pass on through. But tomorrow won't see me and you, and that's just a fact that is sad. But there's beauty in the fact that it's not over. You're gonna recover, and the world's gonna keep going. Yeah.
You're a special guy.
Thank you, Zach.
Max McNown, everybody. Listen to his music. Link below. Really, you're really talented.
Thank you.
Big fan.
Thank you.
Max
I appreciate
McNown.
that.
Really.
All right. Zach sang.
Listen to it. There's a link below, everyone. Max McNown.